Thanks for joining us. Once again, I'm Paul Catalina alongside Royden Ogletree and Nick Saban retired last week.
What?
It was it was a bombshell.
When did it?
It was a bombshell. It shook up a lot of things, but
I joke. I did tell my wife that like 2 days after it happened, and she was like, "What?" Like she was stunned. She had no idea.
Yeah.
And it actually like shook her a little bit that she like missed something that big in the world.
I text
it's like a big deal.
I text my wife and she's like, I text her all in caps like, Nick Saban's retiring. Oh my God. And she's like, why are you so excited? I'm like, I mean, it's pretty huge.
We
and
killed
like,
God.
Like Jack climbed up the beanstalk and killed the giant. And now he's plummeting to earth. And we can just go back up the beanstalk and take all the stuff. Yeah. Like, how is this not a big deal? This would like, if you just told every upstart fast food restaurant that their McDonald's was closing, they'd be like, seriously?
Yeah.
There's a power vacuum now? Can we get Burger King out too? You know?
I'm about to get KFC in every vacant building.
Yeah, like whatever it is. So, but Nick Saban was so unique in that, and there are coaches that are really good and are going to be able to hoard talent, like better than most. Kirby Smart will. I don't really know if there's anybody else who can right now because it's so different. Like,
you can make an argument.
Jim Harbaugh was.
Lane Kiffin's trying,
but like his door revolves. Yeah. All right. And Kirby
Dan Lanning is going to be West Coast.
Yeah. Like maybe. But again, the door, because of the transfer portal and all these things, is more revolving. And even though it was revolving at Alabama, to me, in the transfer portal era, never lost someone that was totally impossible to replace, which, and we'll see if that happens with Georgia as well, because I don't think that they will. But, I mean, LSU has, right?
Yeah.
Almost every team in the country, at least for that 1 year, has lost somebody to a different program that they found impossible to replace. Now, Alabama was, with their 2 total losses this year, wonky to a point of they couldn't just dominate through injuries. They had to win in a lot of different ways. That was the biggest difference between, pre-Portal Saban and post-Portal Saban is in the post-Portal Saban era, he was not able to just, all right, well, the left guard and the right tackle are both hurt, and we got 2 wide receivers down, and we're out a linebacker. Well, we probably won't play as well, but all these guys that are going to start next year are just going to play these 4 games. We're not going to be without them.
The sophomore and junior depth died.
Exactly. So instead of winning by 35, they won by 26. That was it. But now, like you saw this year where, instead of winning by 35, they won by 4. It was like, all right, we're still good enough to beat you, but we're not necessarily good enough to blow you straight out. And I think that Georgia was a little bit the same way this year for the first part of it, and then they adjusted and then got through. But Nick Saban was able to get people just because he was Nick Saban, and there's never going to be another one. So when it comes to, I think we're going to see maybe, especially with the 12-team playoff and everything going on, you're going to see some nice runs from other programs that would have gotten guys if it was just not for Nick Saban, right? If it was not Nick Saban asking me, I would have probably gone here. But I'm not going to miss the chance to play for the greatest coach ever.
Right. And he was getting guys that, it harkened back to like the 70s and 80s when these coaches, like Texas would rip guys from Baylor and A&M just because they didn't want them on Baylor and A&M, you know what I mean? They'd just go and sit. And we were talking about sitting in the last segment, but it was just this unbelievable thing where he had the guys like, why would you go there? You're not even going to play yet. And then they'd come out, they'd have 2 awesome seasons as a junior and a senior. Oh, you're the first round, you're the first pick. Like, he couldn't do that anymore. It was unbelievable to see how many guys he just got, how many like 4 and 5 star guys he just got as almost add-on pieces, as depth. Kirby Smart's doing it a little bit because we saw a few years ago when Baylor played them and like half their team set out in the Sugar Bowl and they still dominated us with like 5-star sophomores or whatever that hadn't played all year.
Yeah.
He's doing that a little bit, but it is
He's got 5 more national titles to win before he gets that kind of street cred, though.
He didn't have to like call to set up a meeting.
Yeah.
That kind of power.
Yes.
You know, it's like I'm in Dothan, like I want to see your best player. You know what I mean?
No,
it just could show up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like Michael Scott, I started a sentence and I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I think that far gone are the days of like having those guys that would sit for 2 or 3 years and then come in and be a first round pick. I don't want to say that we won't ever see it again because we didn't ever think that we'd see another Bear Bryant until there was another Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
It's
just going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm more interested to see is sort of the parity in that we saw when Alabama was down from when was the last time they were like from the 80s when they won that national championship? 92 when they won that national championship until 2007 where you had a little more parity. Obviously, it was dominated by like the Florida schools, but
in Nebraska.
So, you know, I'm interested to see who fills that power vacuum. Probably Georgia.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you, it's great news for Florida, LSU, Miami, Florida State, those schools, because Nick Saban, like, now Miami was a little bit before 2007. Florida was right, like, you know, once Tebow left, that's when they started to dip. Because he was the magnet of that. Like, you've got these guys, like, you know, Urban Meyer. Like, once Urban Meyer and Tebow left, that's when that happened. But because, you know, Nick Saban's the one who ended the Florida run, right?
Yeah.
They beat him in the SEC title game, and then that was when it was on for Alabama for the Saban era. And so when that happened, it's not surprising to see 2 bad stretches of Florida State history, a very long stretch of bad Florida, and an even longer one of Miami, in that, where do you think he was going?
He stole all their recruits.
Yeah, so because Nick Saban, like, the ones that they were even like, essentially for the 90s, they were kind of all dividing them up evenly, and then based on 2 or 3 guys that swung a certain way, you know, you were the best team of the group, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, Bowden and Spurrier and, you know, it's different Miami coaches, but like whoever the Miami coach was essentially just like, okay, here's our 25, you're 25, you're 25. You know, we really fought hard for these couple. These are the ones that swung. You know, I think Bobby was more successful than the other 2 in the longer term because his staff didn't change that much. Like, he had this, for the most part, the same staff the whole time. And then, like, when actually it started to you know, Urban Meyer came in, was way younger, and like knew how to work a cell phone. And then that kind of changed for Bobby, and that's when Jimbo came in. But but where did he go? Like, now Nick Saban went everywhere, but right at the beginning, like getting those dudes that were the difference makers that were divided evenly up amongst 3 schools, or maybe even 4 or 5, then all of a sudden he just went
deep in Dade County
and took them all. You know, so back when let's just say the 12 best players in Miami, 4, 4, and 4, he was getting 9 of them. So then it's like the other 3 get to fight over 1 apiece on average, and they may or may not get them. So if they do it right, the Florida schools should really benefit from this more than anything else because they're local. But we'll see. Like, you know, who knows, like, what's going to happen. Now, like, Kirby Smart's already kind of doing this, but now that, like, you have Nick Saban gone and the Pope is gone. Yeah. Like, that's it. The Pope of college football is gone. So that is going to be interesting to see how those
White smoke
programs
is coming out of the Waffle Houses.
Yeah, like those programs react to it, and how those ones that like, and look, LSU won national titles without Nick Saban,
Right. Yep.
but they were probably also hurt by the fact that he was really good at, and this is where LSU was really hurt by Nick Saban. The one guy that would have flipped it in most years was going there instead of LSU, and you'd watch those games and be like, you know, those three guys that were down to us and them, if they had just gone this way, we probably win this game.
That you get a damn quarterback.
Yeah, that, like, yes, Joe Burrow, you know, Saint Joseph
Blessed be his name.
of Ohio came down and helped them out. You know, like that's how it was. But I'm curious to see how that, like, not having that gigantic Death Star of a situation that they had in Alabama, like now that the Rebel Alliance has a shot, like what's going to happen and how that talent gets redistributed and who is the best at roping it all in.
Right. I mean, right now, your coach. But,
Well, I mean, he's like, honestly, the reason I use the Costco thing is, like, he has gone to the Alabama Costco and so far taken 5 guys out of the portal. Now, how that works out remains to be seen. He's pretty good at that. So,
Yeah, he can identify portal players.
but none of them have contributed all that much to Alabama, but they're younger players. So clearly they went there, and they'd probably be staying if Nick Saban was there and playing this year. But they've gone there, and they've walked up, and they've said, yes, I will take a large 40-gallon tub of mayonnaise. Let's go. And that's what they're doing. So, I mean, when you see one school alone getting 5 guys,
Yeah.
Georgia's going to get a couple guys. You know, like those, you know, there's a ripple effect here that is unlike any roster maybe ever in this short history of the transfer portal. No one's roster is going to get rated and cycled like Alabama's will this year.
and they were already rating it before Saban left. Like,
Yeah. Anytime somebody said, like, hey, I don't think I'm going to play here, they're like, come here, because Saban thought you're good, I think you're good.
Exactly. Half of them went to TCU. But I just like, I think, you know, everybody's going to say, you know, woe is me for the Alabama fans and alumni out there. But I just think I'm interested to see what happens with that program, because I was doing the math the other day, and the guy after Saban went 4 seasons, won 3 bowl games, had a winning record of like 35, 13, and 1. And they said, go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We cannot deal with you anymore. I forget what his name was. I have it in my Twitter feed. But like he had a winning record, 35, 13, and 1, which you would kill for that at
Many schools. Many schools.
most schools.
Yeah.
My alma mater included.
Yeah.
And won 3 bowl games, and they're just like, not good enough. The coach after Bear Bryant, not good enough. And it took 2 more coaches before they got to
Stallings.
Gene Stallings. Yeah, before they got to him to win the national championship. And even he didn't last.
Well, he retired after the national championship.
Yeah, like
But
then from there, it was like doldrum. Everybody forgets how bad Alabama was until Nick Saban got back there.
Yeah.
Or got there in general.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see when you don't have that power, when the U.S. leaves the state that they have been having war in for years. What kind of power vacuum does that leave in the SEC?
That's a good comparison. Now look, he built, in my opinion, 2 dynasties, although one of them he was not a part of for most of it. Because LSU before Saban got there was a revolving door of why is this not good?
Yeah.
I mean, the guys like Curly Hallman, and they could never hire the right coach. They had this glory from the 60s and 70s, but then they would be good. They would have good teams in the 80s, but they were never competing for anything really like that was, you know, they had a couple, but then Nick Saban came there and then like made LSU the place. Then he went to the Dolphins, and then LSU was able to take what they learned from Nick Saban and then keep that vein running through this whole time through now several coaches. So he kind of built LSU into, he taught them how to run a football program. He went to the Dolphins, They learned nothing from Nick Saban. They
he
were
learned
never a
anything
match
from the Dolphins anyway.
I actually think he did.
Did not go to college to pro football anymore.
Yeah, I think he did. I like that. I think with the right organization, we've never seen Nick Saban back in college. But there's not that many right organizations.
Yeah.
Right? So there's not that many. But the Dolphins never been run well. They're just not.
We were talking about it.
A couple of owners.
We don't
not run
include the Dolphins into like the doldrums of like shameful, shame, and we don't include them into like really beaten down fan bases. They're like up there kind of with like the Browns. They've had more success than that. Obviously, they've won a Super Bowl, but like they haven't won a playoff game since the 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been bad for like Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
Like Tua has been their best quarterback, or we're getting an NFL segment. Tua has been their best quarterback since Dan Marino, and they're like, I don't even know if we want to keep him anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I just think that. But the funny thing is that Nick Saban, he wins at LSU, but Nick Saban wasn't Nick Saban until he was Nick Saban. You know what I mean? I mean, if you kind of look at his coaching record before he gets to LSU, he has success at Michigan State. And then, comes out of nowhere to win the championship at LSU.
Michigan State was he's
got it a little bit.
I think they knew he had it. Like, I have a friend who played for him and was like, yeah, this guy's something. Like, just compared to other coaches that just knew it differently.
So we just don't think that there's going to be a coach that we're just not seeing.
No.
That
but I do
all of a sudden turn into an all-time great.
Yeah. And I do believe this about a lot of coaches and players when it comes to professional sports. If you're not matched with the right situation at the right time,
that's fair.
It's not going to work for you. And because everybody's got such short memories on things, or long memories when it comes to Nick Saban, I guess it's been a long time. People think he was a bad NFL coach. Well, it clearly didn't suit him either. Like, he wanted to go back to college. And look, Joe, you do make a good point. As college became more like pro, he became less comfortable with it. But he was always adaptable. But I do think that when you have a situation where you don't have good leadership above you, you don't have those things. And it's the same way in college. But if you have good leadership above you, if you have the people running the organization, the people that have the money of the organization, and we're not going to have time to do our NFL segment. We'll just keep on this for a little bit. But if you have the right people in place, then all of a sudden you can be successful and your talents can be fully realized. But if you don't, then you're kind of out of that and you go back to where you know that you're going to be successful, because Nick Saban at any point in Alabama could have had another NFL job. Nobody thought of him as some kind of NFL washout, like Lou Holtz or something, that he just didn't have the right mindset for it. He just never went back there. He could have won 2 or 3 of these national titles at Alabama and then said, you know what? This organization's really smart. I'm going to go work for the Rams or whatever, they know what they're doing. I'm going to go work there. As opposed to the Dolphins, who clearly don't, the Lions didn't know what they're doing forever. And now it looks like, hey, they might have stumbled across something, know? But they're not of the 32 teams in the NFL, only 5 are consistently run well.
People forget how bad the Patriots were before Belichick got there.
Yeah. And you had Robert Kraft learned a lot from Belichick. We'll see how he applies that knowledge in the future with Gerard Mayo, but that's how it is. Just like LSU clearly learned from Nick Saban and was able to not fall completely off the tracks after he left. That's one of the most impressive things, because LSU has not only been through head coaches, they've been through 5 athletic directors too.
A bunch,
they've been able to at least know, when somebody comes in, okay, Saban did this, we know at least we've got the baseline for doing this, and then every coach who's been there, Saban, Les Miles, Edo, has won a national title. Now we'll see if Brian Kelly can keep that going. Garrett has no faith in that, but
I do not like that.
Yeah. So,
is he just too corny?
Yeah.
He's a fraud, man. Everything about it's fraudulent. Even going back to Notre Dame, can't win the big games. Look at this year. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
So we can stay on that all day. But the
but no, I think
what does, is it Horsher? Who Who's the coach now at Alabama?
DeBoer?
DeBoer. Why am I thinking?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer. Like, what does he have to do to be even relatively considered a success at Alabama? And to that effect, what can he even do in the intermediate to, like, plug the holes in the ship? Because it seems like it's like red alert going on that campus right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
I think DeBoer. I mean, he's just going to have to do it his way and then win, and then not worry about. But Nick did it this way. Nick did it this way. Nick did it this way. Like, he's just going to have to win. Like, this, the only thing he can do is do it his way and win. And he's going to have to deal with the fact that he's going to be at the place where their expectations are so unreasonable. And
it's going to be nasty next year when they go like 7-5.
Yeah. But like Saban's the greatest, and there's only a few other coaches that are like in the ballpark of discussing about how they were able to win as consistently as they were for as long, and they didn't do it as well as he did with the restrictions he did. Like, to me, like, you're talking about Saban and Bryant and Bowden and Osborne and, like Newt friggin' Rockne. I mean, like, there's just not, like, you're not talking about a lot of guys.
He only really translates to like Bear Bryant and
Woody Hayes.
Well, I was thinking college basketball. I was thinking
John Wooden.
John Wooden, right?
Yeah. So like, okay, I'll just, because it's what I know. Like, Bobby Bowden would probably be considered the greatest college football coach ever in the modern era if Nick Saban didn't exist, because of not only did he only won 2 national titles. So it's probably not like, it would probably be Bryant and then Bowden. But Bowden in the modern era was probably the best because of, in an era where there were only 2 teams that went the national championship game, he was in the top 5 15 years or 14 years in a row. Like, in that era when it was voted on.
Right.
Like, he was, like, that's how dominant he was.
Always giving yourself a chance.
And he wasn't even close to as dominant as Nick Saban was.
Right.
Like, Nick Saban took, okay, Bobby Bowden was this good. Nick Saban took Bobby Bowden's this good, Bear Bryant was this good. He is so much better and figured things out more than both of those 2 football coaching geniuses.
Yeah.
That's how good he was.
I think he has more national championship games or appearances than he did double-digit losses at Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's like 44-24 or something like that.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. I think if we're semantic, but like, and it is interesting because of how close their relationship is. Like, the only real, like, sort of comparison is Belichick.
Yeah.
In an era where people don't win multiple Super Bowls, let it be in a row.
Yeah.
But to be in that many, period. Like, he has more Super Bowl appearances, and in fact, like, rings, if you want to count the Giants, like, rings or whatever, than, like, every franchise.
Yeah.
So he's really only comparison to his, like, to his only peer is his, like, really good friend, Bill Belichick, which those conversations have to be wild. But it is interesting that we're now at a point where there's just the changing of the guard, and I don't know if we as a one sports talk community or even the community at large online knows how to react quite yet about like, how do we talk about these guys? Like, how do we even contextualize what they did?
Yeah,
and then but also. Hell yeah, we just got another Alabama recruit. So I don't know. Like,
yeah, it is wild, because I do think that there's always like a correction in the market. There's a correction in things, and right now for Nick Saban, Nick Saban leaving is gonna. I mean, we've already seen the ripple effect through. Now, look, San Jose State probably never thought in their life that they would be affected because the Alabama coach retired.
Right.
But here's where we are.
Yeah, it's the small domino leading up to the huge domino.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, Nick Saban retires. And that means they're going to take the coach from Washington to go there.
Yeah.
And then Washington's going to take the coach from Arizona. Arizona's going to take this coach from San Jose State. And then there's going to be a smaller school than San Jose State potentially that's like, oh, we have to hire a new coach because the greatest football coach of all time retired.
Yeah, South Dakota State's like really shaking in their boots right now.
Yeah, and they might have good coach.
Well, what I just wanted to talk about this because it's really funny. I forget what the name of the agent is, but the agent of, I think he was the agent of Dan Lanning.
Oh, Jimmy Sexton.
Jimmy Sexton. So he's the agent of all these guys that got all of them raises and then sent DeBoer to Alabama.
Yes, it was.
That's unreal.
It's great. Here's the thing about Jimmy Sexton. He's now peaked.
Yeah.
Because he'll never have another Nick Saban to make all this money off of again.
Right.
Because it's not like
I would retire.
Yeah, I mean,
He got everyone raises and then got his other client back into the Alabama job.
he got Jimbo Fisher 2 raises at A&M for nothing. He got, I mean, I don't even know. Like, here's what we don't know. Did Mike Norvell ever talk on the phone with Greg Byrne, the athletic director at Alabama? Did Dan Lanning ever talk on the phone with Greg Byrne? Did that ever actually happen? Or did Jimmy Sexton just said, okay, who's on your short list? These are all my guys.
Yeah. I
And
have this Rolodex. Would you like to look at it?
look, Seattle people, like Washington people will always believe this because of Jimmy Sexton. A month and a half ago, Kalen DeBoer got offered a contract at Washington. And it sat on his desk, and he changed agents, and Jimmy Sexton told him, hey, let's just wait and see. That's a smart agent move. They're not going to fire you.
Right.
You know, like you're fine. We'll work on this. And then who's the only other person other than Miss Terry on earth who would have known that Nick Saban was thinking about retiring? His agent, Jimmy Sexton.
Real estate agents in Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the ultimate just dick move of the Saban family to just finally move.
Lake Travis is nice this time of year.
To just finally move to Austin after all the orange blood. So, yeah.
What do you think? I mean, we're going to wrap up, but like, this also shakes up the recruiting landscape, bar none, too. I just.
Well, again, like, you know, you could be, and this was happening all the time, all the way down the road. The kid's grandmother loves you. Like, everybody loves you. This is where I want you to go. And then, you know, Nick Saban loses the kid to Georgia. And then he's like, all right, well, who's the next best defensive end? Or who's the next defensive end we can get? And they're like, oh, where is he committed? Oh, he's committed to Florida. All right, well, let's call him. And be like, hey, George, this is Nick Saban. You know me.
You might have heard of me.
Hey, I know that you're committed to Florida and all that, and that's a fine institution. They do things pretty good there. But I was wondering if you would like to come and visit Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and look at like the shiniest trophies you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And play for me and probably be a first-round draft pick in the NFL. Or you can go and you'll get your free pair of jorts, and then you might be a first-round draft pick. But I can tell you, you know, like, hold on. Oh, hey. Oh, man, that's hilarious. Devontae Smith just popped in here and said hello. I didn't even know he was coming in today.
Yeah.
What do you know about that? He's the first wide receiver to win the Heisman since 1991. I did that. Anyhow, just call me back when you want to see me. All right, bye.
Anyway, brother, your Camaro still runs on gas up here, too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's over. Like that thing is going to affect it because it wasn't just that he could just go and go, these 20. It was the last 5, right? It was the last 5 that he went to the rivals. Like, oh, you want to go to LSU? I wanted LSU. I had a good time there. Great food in Southern Louisiana.
They tell you about the championship that I won
there?
there?
I won there. I won 1 there. I won 6 here. I mean, like, and I don't know how good you are in math, but I know that like Sesame Street taught me that 6 is more than 1. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Why don't you come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and not go there? And you know, you'll have way more fun here, and you'll be a first-round NFL draft pick. And then like that whole thing, like, oh hey, and here's the deal: even if like the draftniks like put you down the list and you're like in the second, like you would be a 4th-round pick if you went to Boston College, but you'll be a 2nd-round pick if you go here because people are like, well, he played for Nick Saban.
How many snaps did he play? 10? Second round grade.
Yeah, exactly. He just couldn't get on the field because of all the 9 first rounders in front of him.
Yep.
That's just how it works. All right, so that's gonna do it. For us, thanks to Royden, thanks to Garrett. We've got a very diverse show today. We got Cody Bradford from the world champion Rangers.
Yay!
I
like Cody. I've interviewed him.
I only wanted to say that in front of you as an Astros fan.
Oh man!
To make you take your medicine. We have Manny Navarro from The Athletic talking about Miami finally getting their quarterback and getting their first choice in Cam Ward. So that was
surprising. We didn't talk about that.
It was surprising. And it is like, you've got to feel good if you're a Miami fan, because there was a time where you're like, well, who's it going to be? And
No one?
This is like, everyone keeps coming here and taking a visit and like taking a picture with their mom and dad on the beach and then going back to wherever they are and going somewhere else. So we also have Todd Archer from ESPN talking about the Cowboys collapse, and then John McClain on the NFL playoffs. So a very diverse show today. Diverse show of mostly white guests and Manny Navarro.
I was going to say, this is the first time John McClain's been called diverse in his entire life.
Yeah. And Manny Navarro, who's a lovely Cuban man. Anyway, we're going to be back in an hour. This is 365 Sports on this is 360. You know what? Let's just end the show. 365
Bye.
Sports. Bye.